Japan has started to tamper with a taboo it had avoided for over 60 years. They're now showing moves to change the three non-nuclear principles. Since the start of the new Cold War this year, Japan is now seriously beginning its transition into a normal country. Let's take a closer look at this today. Let's get right into it. Japan's Defense Minister Shinjiro Koizumi expressed the opinion that Japan should not treat nuclear weapons policy as a taboo and should discuss it, suggesting the possibility of reviewing the three non-nuclear principles. First, let's examine the three non-nuclear principles: not possessing, producing, or allowing the introduction of nuclear weapons. This has been the foundation of Japan's security and a long-standing national policy. Since Japan is the only country in the world to have experienced a nuclear attack, its political circles have maintained a very cautious attitude toward nuclear issues, and there has been a general reluctance to even discuss anything related to nuclear weapons. However, this time, the current Minister of Defense has publicly mentioned the nuclear issue, which is being seen as more significant than before. Minister of Defense Shinjiro Koizumi appeared on Getron TV and said that, while it's a difficult topic for Japan, the nuclear issue cannot be ignored. He cited how, after Russia invaded Ukraine, several European countries quickly revised their security policies. France is boosting its nuclear capabilities, while Finland is changing its policy to permit the introduction of nuclear weapons in response to security concerns. After mentioning this international situation, he emphasized that Japan should also have a sense of crisis and discuss and pursue all policies without any taboos. We need to pay attention to this statement because the Japanese government is revising its three major security documents this year, including its National Security Strategy, National Defense Strategy, and Defense Build-up Plan, which means the entire security policy will also be reviewed. Japanese media have interpreted this statement as reflecting the view that even the three non-nuclear principles should not be excluded from discussion. In addition, Prime Minister Takaichi has also previously expressed the view that the principle of non-introduction among the three non-nuclear principles needs to be reconsidered. Japanese media have interpreted this statement as reflecting the view that even the three non-nuclear principles should not be excluded from discussion. The policy isn't finalized yet, but key government officials openly discussing a once taboo issue signals change in Japan's security policy. However, there's something interesting. This is not the first time that Shinjiro Koizumi, the minister, has brought up this topic. Since the Takaichi administration began, some Japanese officials and politicians have said nuclear weapons and the three non-nuclear principles shouldn't be taboo topics. Within Japan, many see this statement as part of an ongoing trend, not something new. There's a culture in Japan called jinarashi. It means slowly shifting the social climate and measuring public response before fully moving ahead. In the political world, before implementing a new policy, several politicians and bureaucrats repeatedly make similar statements to shape public opinion, and this method is also referred to as jinarashi. Some in and outside Japan see these recent nuclear remarks as part of this process. If you look at the actual developments, you can understand why such interpretations are being made. Last December, it was revealed that a top official in the Prime Minister's office privately told reporters that Japan should have nuclear weapons. Even though it wasn't an official statement, the remarks from such a key government figure attracted significant attention. Prime Minister Calchi argued even before taking office in the 2024 Liberal Democratic Party leadership race that keeping the three non-nuclear principles while depending on the US nuclear umbrella might be inconsistent and the nuclear issue should remain open for discussion. After becoming Prime Minister, he avoided related comments due to the issue's sensitivity, but on July 6th in the National Assembly, he said all issues would be discussed and work would continue through the year. By announcing the revision of the three security documents, he has left open the chance for the nuclear issue to be reviewed. Looking at these remarks chronologically, it's clear the Japanese government's push to publicly discuss nuclear policy is ongoing, not a one-time event. Many analysts believe Koizumi's remark reflects not just his personal view, but signals a shift in government security policy. This raises the following question. If Japan alters its three non-nuclear principles, what will really change? Given the Japanese government's current actions, many think Japan is unlikely to quickly develop or possess nuclear weapons. Calls are increasing to revise the ban on introducing nuclear weapons, one of the three non-nuclear principles, to better match reality. The reason is that the argument is gaining strength that, in order to make more practical use of the US nuclear umbrella, America's nuclear forces should be able to use ports on Japanese territory. The Japanese government is closely watching the US development of the Sea-Launched Nuclear Cruise Missile, SLCMN, set for deployment in 2032. This tactical nuclear weapon, designed for launch from submarines or surface ships, will likely be deployed on US attack submarines and operated in the Western Pacific when development finishes. If this happens, Japan's three non-nuclear principles, which ban introducing nuclear weapons, could hinder US warships entering bases like Yokosuka or Sasebo. Japanese security experts think operating a new nuclear deterrence system will be hard without changing current principles. After the Cold War, the United States retired most tactical nuclear weapons from warships, so nuclear weapons virtually stopped entering Japanese ports. Strategic nuclear submarines carrying nuclear weapons use only dedicated bases on the US mainland for confidentiality and operational reasons. However, as China and Russia have recently been rapidly strengthening their nuclear forces, the United States is also revising its strategy to reinforce its tactical nuclear capabilities again. The SLCMN is also being considered a revived project as part of this trend. In Japan, some argue that laws and principles should be updated to match the timing of the US deployment of new nuclear forces. Former Ground Self-Defense Force Chief of Staff Kiyomi Iwata stated at a public forum that the 3 non-nuclear principles revision should be done before 2032. Japan is also continuing these talks due to China's growing nuclear capabilities. The Chinese Ministry of Defense predicts China may have over 1,000 nuclear warheads by 2030 and does not rule out limited nuclear use if there's a Taiwan crisis. Because Russia has repeatedly discussed using tactical nuclear weapons in the Ukraine war, some Japanese conservative politicians and security experts argue that Japan needs an environment that allows the US nuclear deterrent to be operated more realistically to prevent nuclear attacks. In response, Japan is not only discussing nuclear issues, but is also simultaneously working to strengthen its military capabilities. In particular, recently, they have been actively utilizing private drone companies to accelerate the development of military interceptor drones. The Japanese government aims to deploy interceptor drones by 2027 and is now developing and testing them. Japan's defense ministry calls this the SHIELD project and promotes it as a key air defense initiative. According to the plan, the interceptor drones will be tasked with directly intercepting enemy suicide drones or reconnaissance drones in the air. They will join the current air defense network to protect key assets like radar bases, missile bases, naval vessels, and important military facilities. The reason Japan is rushing to secure interceptor drones like this is because the nature of warfare has been changing rapidly in recent times. Missiles and fighter jets once dominated battlefields, but now deploying hundreds or thousands of cheap drones is becoming a new threat. Japan views Chinese and North Korean drone capabilities as the main risk factors. China has developed numerous suicide drones and military UAVs to prepare for possible conflict with Taiwan and is recognized for its large-scale drone capabilities. China also holds an overwhelming share of the global civilian drone market, and as of last year, the number of registered civilian drones exceeded about 1.87 million. Because the civilian industry base is so large, China can quickly shift its production capacity to the military sector in case of emergency, which is also a concern for Japan. Japan worries that if China attacks Taiwan, US bases in Japan, as well as self-defense force bases, radar sites, and missile units deployed in the Nansei Islands could be main targets for major drone strikes. For these reasons, Japan believes it is urgent to establish a defense system that can intercept drones with other drones, not just missiles. There are also assessments that North Korea is rapidly advancing its drone capabilities. In particular, there are suggestions that North Korea may have acquired various experiences and technologies in operating unmanned aerial vehicles after sending troops to the Russia-Ukraine war. Stanislav Grishin, chief strategy officer at Ukrainian drone maker General Cherry, said North Korea may have obtained drone technology from Russia and improved its drone warfare skills through real combat. Japan, considering these changes in the security environment, has determined that its existing air defense network alone has limitations in responding and is building a separate new drone defense system. In response, Japan has begun preparations to greatly enhance its surveillance capabilities at sea, and considering China's growing maritime activities, has decided to independently develop unmanned surface vessels for maritime surveillance. The Japanese government plans to start accepting applications for participation in the research and development of unmanned vessels to be operated by the Japan Coast Guard starting next year. In December of this year, they plan to revise the policy related to strengthening maritime security capabilities to officially include the development and operation plans for unmanned vessels, and the related budget is also planned to be included in next year's budget proposal. Japan's decision stems from repeated Chinese Coast Guard activity near the Senkaku Islands. Japan effectively controls the area, but China also claims it as its own territory, so ships from both countries continue to face off in the region. The Japanese government found its current surveillance system inadequate for long-term monitoring, so they're developing unmanned vessels to monitor larger sea areas for longer durations. However, there is a view that these unmanned vessels can be operated even in distant waters where it is difficult for people to work for long periods of time. The Japan Coast Guard uses unmanned aircraft for aerial surveillance, but concerns remain about their limited flight time. On the other hand, unmanned vessels can patrol the same waters for much longer periods as long as they are equipped with fuel and maintenance systems, which can reduce surveillance gaps. Japan expects that the unmanned vessel operation standards being prepared by the International Maritime Organization will be implemented starting in 2032 and is preparing to begin trial operations in the same year. Japan's expansion of unmanned systems, not only on land and in the air, but also at sea, can be seen as a move to generally strengthen its surveillance capabilities in response to the military activities of neighboring countries.